Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of TBR. I'm George Binns, and we're continuing with the series of discussions about the Constitution 101. And we're either at part 5 or part 6, depending on who's counting. And to help us understand it, we have with us again Margo Jones, a retired Beverly School teacher. And you are concerned that things going on in Washington don't seem to be following the Constitution as you and I were taught it in school or read it from one of our little books.
And it's surprising how little that book is that are all the rules and regulations of our government.
Yep.
And we have right now in office somebody who has defied the Amendment 14, Section 3, and because somebody said, let the people vote, he was allowed to get onto the ballot, even though our Constitution has within it the fact that he is ineligible for the office right now.
Well, he was never convicted.
That's because he could not say that he was...
I understand, but he was never convicted.
Oh,
yeah.
no, but he was a part of, and it doesn't matter whether he was convicted or not. The whole people were watching him in evidence of his
Okay.
participation.
Oh, that's...
All of the other people who were participating, they weren't found guilty, but they were all charged with the same thing.
I understand, but being charged and being convicted is two different games.
Regardless, he fit the description to a T.
You don't like him, I understand.
I'm not particularly fond of the direction that he has, since office, shown that his interest in the people are thumbs down.
For instance?
For instance, the particular things that come to mind are, let's say, our birthrights to be a citizen of this country.
Yep.
There are problems right now with the people deciding that abortion is legal. There are things like, I can't say that the income tax really strikes my fancy, but I suppose that might be okay. But Social Security, even though I'm not a Social Security receiver, that is of very big importance to me. The Supreme Court right now is acting like a little baby saying, oh, you want something? I can give it to you. There are so many things that are wrong from day one that I really think that the Constitution has been defiled.
Well, I think the Supreme Court is doing...
Good place to start?
Yeah, because we start with the birthright. The Constitution says anyone born in this country is a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the president tried to change that. Goes back to a bunch of concerns about having anchor babies, where a woman gets pregnant, comes to this country to give birth so that the child becomes a citizen, and then what are you going to do with the mother? Throw her out of the country and leave the child? So that whole issue got to be a little messy at one time, but the Supreme Court came down a couple of weeks ago and said, the Constitution is the Constitution. It says you're born in this country, you're a citizen. End of story. So that, I think, the Supreme
but the
Court...
other side of the coin was that our fearless leader said, well, the child may be legal, but if those people do not have papers for citizenship in our country or a pass or any other reason for being here, they can be not, they can be
Invited.
evicted from our country,
Invited to go home, yes.
invited to go home. And so he said, that must be okay.
And it is the way the Constitution is written. It doesn't say anything about what happens to the mother or the father. And
Nor
that's
does it say anything about the time that that person who may not be a citizen has been here with green cards or any other card of residency.
Exactly.
Those have to go because they're not a citizen.
Well, it's a shortcoming of the Constitution.
It may be a shortcoming in the Constitution, but it certainly defiles the existence of people that have been here for years, just because he wants to make sure that we have all those immigrants somewhere else.
Yeah. So there is a serious problem in the way the Constitution is written.
But the understanding of the needs of people are certainly not being regarded
Exactly.
in his
It's not covered in the Constitution. You're right. That's a shortcoming.
But if he doesn't like it, he has to go to the legislature to make sure that they have that changed.
Well, if you want to change the Constitution, that's beyond the legislature. You've got to have a constitutional convention and it get voted by all the states.
No, in order to have, I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. You're talking about change of the Constitution to an amendment. Okay.
Yeah. So the next issue on your list, I guess, is Social Security. Or do you want to talk about the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court recently has taken away the right of junior judges to continue with cases that the Supreme Court has made illegal for them to undertake. The junior judges, the Supreme Court judges have their rules and regulations, but any judge taking a court case that is in the interest or disinterest of our government, they may not take that case. They have been ruled illegal.
Well, as Chief Justice Kagan has recently said, the Supreme Court has been doing things that could be done better. Specifically, whenever one of these minority judges makes a decision and says something contrary to what the president wants to do, the administration immediately challenges the court decision, and it starts going up through the ranks of the levels of court, and it gets all the way to the Supreme Court, and they have what they call a shadow hearing, where they have one or two judges sit on the case and come up with a decision, and you're right, in most cases they reverse the decision of the lower courts.
Are forbidden to do what the president doesn't want.
No, the lower court's decision is reversed.
Reversed.
So
if they found somebody guilty, it's not guilty anymore.
Yeah, and what Chief Justice Kagan made the point is, the problem with that is that there is no explanation given as to why. So again, this is another one of these issues where, yeah, they're doing everything according to the book, but they're not doing it the way people would understand, well, why? And one of the issues that came up prior to the election, and it's happening ever since, is that the opposition party is weaponizing the judiciary. So every time they don't like something, they get a friendly judge to them to go make a decision that's contrary to what the president wants to do. So we got a situation in this country where the two sides are spending more time fighting with each other than running the country.
There was in particular a court case that came up for rejudgment, and the president did not want to have that come up. And so instead of doing what the courts would find, he personally addressed 3 judges. I have to take that back. He didn't personally address it. He was instructing people to see them, to offer them to leave their position and leave their decision on that case and hold their position as a judge, or he would have them fired. And it turned out that there were people who could not, because of their education, their belief in the law, could not sign a paper saying they would dismiss the case, were released from their position. 3 people in particular were covered in the news, showing that our control of the rules and regulations are at the will of our president,
Yeah.
not of the rules of law. And when I heard that, and knowing what was being said and who was being said, I could not believe that it had come to that point in the judicial control from the Supreme Court. Now, I'm trying to remember the one thing that happened just recently that the Supreme Court made, and they passed on one half of it, and it was in favor of whatever it was, and then immediately returned to something to make it favorable for the president. And I wish I could, at this moment, recall that circumstance, but it was called Trump's finest control of the Supreme Court. And it just doesn't come to mind right now.
Okay.
But it was definitely a side issue of one issue, and so he got something that he wanted to have done, and it was like, oh, okay. I didn't know we were going to discuss that, so I didn't think about the
Okay.
part of the Supreme
Well,
Court.
Yeah.
But no, we're
So you want to bring up the question about income tax, and basically what it comes down to is of the revenue that runs the country, about 50% of it is collected from income tax. And payroll tax, which is a euphemism for Social Security and Medicare, it's another kind of income tax, but that accounts for 34% of the revenue. So the country is really being paid for by the workers who get tapped for income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax. And then corporations contribute 11% to the total revenue, and then tariffs and other collections is 3 to 7%. So a big part of the funds to run the country come from people that are working.
okay. That brings up the point of the big bill that has just been signed by Congress and passed by 2 votes on the approval side rather than putting the 2 votes on the disapproval side.
Yeah.
So it was a very close decision.
Yeah.
But when you break down that particular big bill, there is a amount of that money that has been denied to the departments in our in our legislative branch that have affected almost every human resource to the people of our country. And I do have something in here that I really do want to emphasize about this big bill, that the big bill has surpassed adding to the debt that is astronomical.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a reduction this year of cutting off the debit and coming back. So we have $150 billion being spent on the Pentagon or any military turn of interest
Yeah.
in our thing. The Pentagon has never had a inventory check on expenditures.
Yeah, if,
170 billion is going into the deportation and control of our borders. And maybe all that money needs to be spent. But all that money, however, doesn't leave an awful lot for the people of this country. And every single one of the departments under the legislature control has been reduced or eliminated. And the Department of, that was in charge of security for great things like the flood that happened in Texas.
FEMA.
That SEMA Department of Economic Needs was such a point, it was perfectly timed by Mother Nature, thank her, for doing such damage. I shouldn't contribute to her well-being. That the president had to get out of his seat, go down to Texas and find out why in the world did they not have alarm control to get the people to be out of danger before the catastrophe of the flood. And it wasn't because they weren't trying to get economic support for the whistles to let the people know that something is endangering them. There were years, 10 years that were covered carefully of all of the attempts by all of the people and all of the people that they tried to get money for, because it's expensive to put those things into a rural society that doesn't have the money to put them in.
Yeah.
And this is where the department could have, should have been at the response to the people, and there went 100 lives because they did not have the forewarning of an emergency.
Well, they got warnings, but they came out on cell phones. And the problem they got into was that they didn't put the warnings out until like 4 o'clock in the morning. And most people are not paying attention to their cell phone at 4 o'clock in the morning.
They also did not have sufficient areas of warning.
Yeah.
There were just 2 in one particular location. Forget all the rest of the people that are within the run of the river. And that was absolutely unnecessary in my book. But it showed the president, at least something did, that there are needs in these departments of the people.
Yeah.
And it probably was the first time since he went into office that he showed any concern for the people, and that's 6 months out.
And the point you made is that they've been going for 10 years trying to put these alarms in. He's only been in office for a couple of months. So
But he was in office 10 years ago.
For 4 years, and then somebody else was in office before him and after him. So this is a fundamental problem that the government in general,
In general.
is not doing the job that we hoped it would be doing.
It may possibly be that the people that are in the offices now in the different departments have no idea what it is that they are the heads of departments of.
And I think this is one of the issues that came up with Elon Musk and the Doge.
And the number day one of 1 million plus people going, we don't need you, you're costing us money, and then over 1 million people.
And apparently there are some issues involved that these 1 million people are not doing enough work to justify their existence.
But there were people that were being fired who had terms of office, and he had no control over that, and yet They were the first to go because they were in the head of security
Yeah.
for each of the departments.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you cut off the heads and you put in anybody who can just do whatever they want, then you are out of the area of working with people in the know to make their departments do what you should have done,
Yeah.
make them more efficient with less people. But no, our president was really on his horse, and he galloped away with cut off their heads with the saw that came out of the...
Oh, you're getting a little bit over the deep edge.
I'm sorry.
But basically, the government, the country's in trouble. There's no doubt about it. Our debt exceeds
The income.
it exceeds the GDP.
Okay.
And basically, when the debt gets to be 90% of GDP, a country is in trouble.
Okay.
We're well into the in trouble category.
Okay.
The
but
other message, the other message is we're spending more money on debt servicing than we are spending on defense. And when a country gets into the situation where they're spending more money on debt service than in defense, they're in trouble. So we got two strikes against us right now. And
But all that money that he has appropriated for defense is going into the Golden Dome, which has been in the past tried, found not to be efficient, and it was canceled about 12 years ago. And now he's re-putting it into our budget. And before we end our conversation, George, I really do have to impose upon you something that, because our president has just begun to realize there are people in this country, I would like to suggest that we have a new party other than just Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, and that be the party of the people. To let the people have an opportunity, as they showed on No King's Day, that there were issues that they were willing to get up and out and protest in every state in this country. And they need to have a way of putting into words the problems that they are suffering from, are concerned with, and want to see some changes made. So how would they do that? There are, right now, organizations which are trying to tackle the problems of income, health, our environment, our air, the whole shebang. There are all kinds of wonderful places, and they have money, and they need money. But I'm going to actually, if I can find it from here, read what it is I have as a petition, because we're getting very close to the end of our talk here. And there are lots of issues that we haven't considered. But the No Kings Week really got me started on thinking that we need a way for people to voice. And any attempt to deny the formation of what I would call the People's Party will be subject to removal from the election and appointed office. And you're going to say, what in the world is that? In other words, if we have a party where every person in the United States has an ability to talk to a representative of the People's Party, they can put for vote on the ballots, and we would be exhibiting our freedom of speech without money being involved. And that is one of the biggest holdbacks of anything going on right now, that there's money, 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 millionaires, millionaires, millionaires. They're all the way out there, and it's just like, okay. So anybody that would deny the formation of this really should be released from his office. any attempts to buy a vote so that it would be brought against us is a crime against the free speech and the subject to fine. So there are so many agencies out there, and three of them came to mind, and I think I wrote them down here, that work on issues of energy, health, environment, finances, and they are the ones who could put into action the rights and denials that exist where the people's voice could be heard by taking and putting on the ballot just very simple things. Do you think that the president is doing a good job? Yes or no?
And what are you going to do if somebody says no?
It doesn't matter. It's a question of how many people vote yes. If there is 2/3 a vote of the people, then that classifies as eligible for an amendment.
Well,
Yes, it is. I have checked the Constitution, and it doesn't have to go through it could go through a people's constitutional.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
the people can start an amendment to the Constitution.
but they need to have a way of voicing it.
Oh, we do.
The election of all these people, that's money. We want to have a free speech, and we want to have a party that has a ability of people to voice within their state. We would like to vote on a particular issue. And I'm sorry I had to use the example of is he doing a good job or not. There are lots of people who think he's doing a wonderful job. But if it took him 6 months to recognize there are people out there that need assistance, then that's not being a very good president.
Oh,
There are a lot of other things that he's done wrong, but our time is almost up, and I just want you to recognize that we need to have something. It should not be able to be stopped because that is denying free speech, and that there are penalties if there are any monies involved in it, because this is a situation where we should be able to do what needs to be done without having to buy it.
okay. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening, and we will probably have more discussions about this. And you'll notice my email address is at the credits in the front and the back end. It's for simple means. It's just my last name, BINNS, at Comcast.net. And if you've got a comment, send me an email. And if you have a longer statement you want to make, there's room for you here at the table. Thanks again for joining us, and stay tuned.